What was supposed to be a joyful summer gathering ended in chaos, sirens, and tragedy. No one saw it coming. No warning. Just one meal and dozens of people collapsing at once. This is the story of a peaceful village, a deadly mystery, and a woman at the center of it all. In the late 90s, tucked away in rural Japan, there was a quiet village where life moved slowly, the kind of place where everyone knew each other. Simple people, simple lives, nothing unusual. Every year, the village hosted a large community festival. It wasn't just for locals. People from nearby towns would come together to celebrate. Families brought food, kids played games, laughter filled the air. It was the highlight of the year. But in 1998, that celebration took a terrifying turn. As the evening settled in, everything seemed perfectly normal. People were eating, chatting, enjoying the moment. Then, suddenly, someone complained of severe stomach pain. Within minutes, others followed. One person dropped to the ground, then another, then another. Panic spread like wildfire. People were screaming, vomiting, clutching their stomachs in agony. It didn't make sense. This wasn't just a few cases, it was happening everywhere. And then, the unthinkable. Dozens collapsed at the same time. Emergency services rushed to the scene. What they found was overwhelming. Bodies on the ground, crying families, pure chaos. In total, nearly 70 people were affected. Victims were quickly transported to hospitals where doctors scrambled to understand what was happening. At first, it looked like food poisoning, but something didn't add up. Food poisoning doesn't hit this fast, and it doesn't strike this many people at once. Then came even worse news. Some patients didn't survive. Among them, children. At that moment, everything changed. This wasn't an accident. This was something far more sinister. Investigators began working immediately. They needed answers fast. What did all the victims have in common? It didn't take long to find the connection. Every single person who fell ill ate the same dish, a large pot of curry prepared for the festival. That was the turning point. The curry became the center of the investigation. Samples were analyzed, experts were called in. And the result? It wasn't just contaminated food, it was poisoned. Not with something mild, but with a deadly substance. Arsenic. A colorless, odorless toxin, nearly impossible to detect without testing. And the amount used? Enough to kill hundreds. Now the question became, who would do something like this? And why? The investigation turned toward the people responsible for preparing and guarding the food. Dozens had helped cook it earlier that day, but after it was finished, only a few individuals were assigned to watch over it. That detail mattered, because poisoning the food during preparation would have been nearly impossible without someone noticing. But after it was cooked, that was a different story. Witnesses began to recall something small but important. One person stood out, a woman who had been near the curry pot, alone, holding a blue paper cup. Her name was Masumi Hayashi. Masumi wasn't originally from the village. She had moved there just a few years earlier with her family. They lived in a large house, kept to themselves, and rarely interacted with neighbors. In a tight-knit rural community, that kind of isolation didn't go unnoticed. People found it strange. Some even resented it. Now, suddenly, she was at the center of a national tragedy. Media attention exploded. Reporters surrounded her home day and night. Cameras, questions, accusations. And Masumi, she denied everything, over and over again. I didn't do it. But suspicion kept growing. Authorities didn't have direct evidence. No one had actually seen her poison the food. No fingerprints on the container, nothing concrete. Still, the pressure was intense. From the public, from the media, from everywhere. Days later, investigators searched her home, and that's when things escalated. They discovered arsenic inside the house. Not just traces, significant amounts. Even more concerning, the chemical composition matched the poison found in the curry. That was enough. Masumi was arrested. During interrogation, she stood by her story. The arsenic, she claimed, was related to her husband's business, pest control. A reasonable explanation, at least on the surface. But the prosecution weren't convinced. They built their case entirely on circumstantial evidence. No direct proof, no eyewitness, no confession. Just connections and suspicion. The trial that followed was long, complicated, and deeply controversial. One key question remained unanswered. What was the motive? Why would someone poison an entire community? The prosecution suggested revenge. They claimed she felt rejected by the villagers and wanted to strike back. But that raised another question. Why target innocent people? Children? Even Masumi herself asked that. Years passed. Appeals were filed. Debates continued. And despite the lack of definitive proof, she was sentenced to death. But here's where it gets even more unsettling. To this day, the execution has never been carried out. She remains in prison, still claiming her innocence. So what really happened that night? Was she truly responsible? Or was she simply the easiest person to blame in a case that demanded answers? Sometimes the most disturbing mysteries aren't the ones we can't solve, but the ones we think we already have. And yet, something still doesn't feel right. What do you think?